It's like people gonna watch this later. So, oh hi,
No foul
David,
language.
and yes, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. I just didn't want to say it straight up. But yes, so this will be recorded, and you'll be famous if this is gonna go viral. I'm just kidding.
I wish.
So yeah, all right. So everybody's aware of that. What I am actually gonna talk about a little bit about myself, and I'm gonna pass it to Joey. So my name is Yuki Minami. I did my research here in Japan 2018 to 2019. I was a research fellow. Let's see. Interesting thing about myself here as a researcher. So my school actually moved their campus. My school have like 4 or 5 different campuses around the Fukuoka, and this is actually first time that they have a Fulbright researcher on this campus because it's the middle of nowhere. Like there's nothing. Like if I open the window, there's a rice field and mountain and ocean.
Oh,
So
that sounds
it reminded
terrible.
me of one of those. Yeah, it reminded me of one of those prison where like you put it in, like no one's going anywhere, kind of thing. So when I came here first time, everybody's like, "Well, there's nothing, so you can concentrate your research better than anybody else. So we will expect a better result." And I'm like, this is not what I was looking for. I was actually like looking for fun time, kind of like cultural exchanges, whatever. Um, but yes, so I came here with the 5 fellow, and apparently no 6, and the one actually gave up in the middle of it because the cultural differences. Because like cultural differences are realistic when you actually come to here, and then especially when you study or research in country where like they don't speak English, then you have to actually speak the languages of like theirs. And if your language skill is low, then you're gonna get more depressed. And there's not many people can understand where you're coming from. So we lost to one middle of it. But 5 of us stay strong and finish. So we're like a best friend now. We're like we survived. But yes, that's about it. My research topic, as I said, modernization. I study modern girls, so in 1920, 1930, and yeah, and I play uke for hobby because there's nothing else to do here. So I learned new hobby, and I'm actually making coffee now because I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. So there's no cafe that I can go to. Um, so this pandemic situations make me very skillful person. Other than research, I can actually make coffee. I can play music now. I even post a video on the Instagram. I'm like, I'm losing my mind, but it's okay. But yeah, that's about it for myself. Why don't you do Joey for the?
All right. Yes. So my name is Zoe, as some of you knew. And for those of you who just joined, welcome and nice to see you. And we'll all get a chance to introduce ourselves soon. So I'm looking forward to hearing more. But yes, so I was a Fulbright English teaching assistant in South Korea from 2014 to 2015. And I now I'll be starting my PhD program in the history department at Stanford University in the fall. Oh, I'm seeing something Stanfordy. Okay, that's exciting.
Just clapping because I'm in California right now. So
Oh, okay.
That's awesome. I'm also starting my PhD at Stanford this year.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's talk.
Okay.
That's very exciting. That's very, very exciting. Yes, Fulbrighters represent at Stanford. I love it. But yes, so I'll be doing that. But I was in this past year, I was in South Korea doing a pre-doctoral language program, and then I had to come back due to all the confusion with COVID. But I'm still participating with it online. And then I wanted to talk just very briefly also about what Fulbridge is, because we're the ones hosting this workshop. And for those of you who might not know kind of the context. So during my grant, halfway through my grant in 2015, I realized when I was traveling through Southeast Asia that it was very hard to contact other Fulbrighters in other countries. And I thought that was very bizarre. I thought it'd be really cool if you could say when you're traveling, if you're an ETA, say you're traveling over your winter break or any other break, if you could say visit teach in another ETA's classroom, or if you could get more insight into the place you were visiting briefly by like maybe getting to know other Fulbrighters in that country, And so that's kind of the impetus that had me start Fulbridge.org with a bunch of other grantees at the time. So we've been kind of working under the impetus to try to connect Fulbrighters with one another so that they can learn from each other and also kind of educate each other even more. And so that's kind of also what drives these workshops. Like we just want to get each other together to kind of use each other's knowledge because we think it's such a rich and strong community and we'd like to join together a little bit more. So the only other piece of context I think is useful is Fulbridge joined with kind of together with Fulbrighter in August of 2019 when that website, which some of you may have accessed, rolled out in August of 2019. So we also have a space on that website and we kind of use that website as a tool to continue the work that we've been doing since 2015, since our missions are very, very in tune with one another. And so I'm also working as a consultant for the Fulbrighter network as well as continuing with Fulbridge, which allows us to do some really exciting things like this. And so, yeah, we're kind of continuing our mission of trying to actively foster collaboration between Fulbrighters through that. So yeah, that's kind of my basic background. I also wanted to, before everyone else introduces themselves, I wanted to kind of express what the different disciplines you all had come from. See, I don't know if you all can see my screen. Let's see if
That's
I can. Great. Okay. This is, of course, not representative in the sense that many more people signed up than are here, but I think it's still fairly good to see that there's a huge range of people who are interested in this. But even with, I think, the few of us who are here, we're all coming from very different disciplines. So that means that we won't really be able to have a conversation that's like, what do you do in the history archive when things go wrong? Okay. It's going to have to be a little bit more about the research process in general and the challenges we faced and how we kind of think we can support each other as like this fellow identity of researchers and people, honestly, who are just interested in learning about this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's everything I had. I don't know if you want to jump into the next part.
Yes, sounds good. So is there anybody have a question about like Fulbridge particular at this point? Or maybe if you have a question that you're a little shy about it, then you can just like, write it to us or email to us.
I kind of had a question. You guys mentioned that you were joining with something called Fulbrighter. Is there's like something was merged with Fulbridge in 2019?
I'm sorry, that's very confusing. Yeah, the Fulbrighter network website.
Oh, okay, that's why I was just
that.
like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a link for that? Because I don't think I've joined that, to be honest with you.
Yes, I can send you all the links after the meeting. I'm planning on sending a follow-up email, so it'll have lots of resources for people to continue to collaborate, and it can also have links to the Fulbrighter website and Fulbridge and all that kind of stuff so that you guys can continue participating.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking after this is like I was gonna do like kind of like self-introduction for everybody, and I didn't know how many people gonna be show up today, so we were thinking about like maybe hashtag and kind of things. But since we have enough number that we have enough time for everybody to go over, like why don't we take a turn to like talk about like brief introductions and maybe like what country that you research or you ETA and one of the things that stood out the most to you, kind of like memorable things that while you were doing your research or something that you remember the most during your experience. So who's going to be the brave one to start first?
I'm happy to start if nobody wants to.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Katie, for anybody that wasn't on when I hopped on, and I just got back from Fulbright in Malaysia. I was an ETA, and I have a background in public health and environmental science and medicine. So most of my research has been in medicine, and I'm mostly here to learn. I've co-authored studies. I've never done my own original research, so I would love to hear your experiences about doing your own research, garnering your own funding, and getting yourselves published and what that process looks like.
Okay, thank you. Malaysia, all right. Okay, next person. Yes. Dave, yes. Hi. Your mic is mute. can you turn on the mic? The microphone.
Which person are you talking to?
David.
Oh, okay.
Thomas, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, well, maybe we'll go to the next person, and David, if you want to share at the next opportunity, please feel free to unmute.
Got it.
Okay, is there?
Oh,
Hello.
oh, hello.
Right.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, so I'm a retired math educator, person who focuses on improving teaching and learning of mathematics, and in my case, through the use of all kinds of modeling and collaborative technologies. I was a Fulbright scholar at the University of Pretoria, South Africa, 2011-12. I was a Fulbright specialist in 2014 in Botswana, 2017 in Nepal, and I just got back from something I want to share with you guys, Citizen Diplomacy Action Fund, CDAF. It's a project of the State Department. In order to participate, you have to be one of us. You have to be an alumni of an exchange program. And I just went and spent several weeks working with girls in a black township called Mamelodi. So I'm very invested in this kind of thing. And yes, I am probably about the sum of any three of your ages. So I've been around the block. If there's anything I can do to help you with any aspect of this mysterious world you're entering, I'm happy to do so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. That's so exciting.
Wow. Wow. All right. Something we gotta look into later. Cool. All right. Next person, maybe.
I guess I could go next if nobody's jumping on loan.
Sure. Go.
Okay. I mentioned this to people earlier, but for those that weren't here, like right at 5 o'clock, my name is Molly. I was a Fulbright Hays recipient for Beijing, China in 2013. I went through technically Hamilton College, but I was at Indiana University at the time, and I studied at Minzu University. I was trying to conduct research in mental health, but unfortunately, I did not get that many participants, so it wasn't statistically valuable. I'm kind of hoping to go back and like bump those numbers up, like find a way to like interact with people. Like I also study psychology, so that's why I'm focused on mental health and perspectives on it. One of the most memorable moments there, I would have to say, besides visiting the Forbidden City, it's funny. It was just like somebody that was sitting with me in a McDonald's, and like she openly talked about like, this is probably why you're running into so much trouble. Like during this time in history, like if you went with someone or if you went with a quote unquote health professional, you kind of fell off the face of the earth. So that's why they're kind of timid towards you, and that you're a foreigner too. So that was again like amazing that someone pointed out the obvious to me. So thank you. And I do want to learn like how everyone conducts research and funding and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Right. Hi. You can go.
Oh, who?
Hello.
Oh, hi. I came a little late, so I didn't get to
That's okay.
hear everything. But I'm Cheyenne. I just came back from a Fulbright in the Netherlands, and I actually went to study psychology. I studied developmental psychology, so I was interviewing I was trying to do some cross-cultural work. So I was interviewing American mothers while in the Netherlands and collaborating with someone who was in my lab who was interviewing Portuguese mothers. Yeah, and then we were hoping to get a Dutch sample as well, but of course then COVID happens, and a lot of our data is very, we're asking mothers their thoughts about giving their children independence. And so clearly in a time of stress and pandemics, that's not the right time to ask about that. So it's all on pause right now.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely interested in how other people might also do these cross-cultural or cross-national collaborations, especially within psychology, because of course I don't speak Dutch. I never got a really good grasp of the language. So making those connections is really valuable, and I want to know a little bit more about how other people do that. My most interesting moment, I think just like Dutch directness is, I loved it. I loved it. They're saying exactly how they feel about things. No shame. I love it. So yeah, any moment like
that's
that.
something that I would love to have it, because like in Japan, no one tell you about their emotions, so no, you don't know what's going on. It's like, do you like me or do you hate me, or is it neutral?
It was wonderful, a very nice, refreshing thing. But I think also the flip side is like a lot of my conversations, because I'm American, I just start with like, oh, how are you doing? And every Dutch person I talk to is like, that's so fake. Like, you don't even care how I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, I do, I swear.
It's like, ouch, I do care, you know? Wow. This is interesting. Okay. Wow. All right. Directness. Got it. All right. Alyssa is. Do you
Yes,
want to
Alyssa.
talk? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. My name's Alyssa. I was on the 2019-2020 Fulbright. My Fulbright started in October, and then we got evacuated mid-March. So we were about 5 to 6 months in. I was living in Siem Reap, Cambodia, doing archaeological research and mostly working out of Kokare, the archaeological complex there. And we were studying like population density using digital archaeology and like ground penetrating radar and remote sensing and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm working on. And I'm continuing to do that research into my PhD as well. And actually, the woman I'm working with there, I met through Instagram, who happened to go to my alma mater. And she told me to apply to Fulbright, and I ended up getting that. And so we were working in Cambodia together using the Fulbright as kind of my gateway to that. So that was a really cool experience. Yeah. And then I think my most surprising thing about living in Cambodia was just how multicultural it is already. And like every Cambodian teenager there knows at least 4 languages, including like English and French and Khmer and Japanese sometimes too. And so it was really crazy being surrounded by such smart kids in Siem Reap who have like grown up around the tourist industry like their whole life and stuff like that. So I think that was one of the cool experiences I had living there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did we go over everybody or?
I think I'm the last to speak.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi. So I'm up there as CWERP for what? Oh, that's because that's what my computer is called, CWERP. So my name is Mary Beth Rocktis. I graduate. Well, I won't tell you when I graduated, but my Fulbright was in 2016, 2017 to the University of Porto. I'm a faculty person in the School of Social Work at the University of Pittsburgh. And my area is child welfare and child protective services with a specialty on residential care. So I was working with the team at the university looking at the climate of residential care in Portugal. Portugal has a lot of residential care compared to the rest of the EU. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Germany also has a fair amount. France less, Spain far less, Ireland far less. But anyway, so we were looking a lot at climate. My area is the things that make a place where a child lives restrictive, and therefore they're unable to sort of do normal developmental things. So it was very challenging doing, I mean, I have a toddler's grasp of Portuguese. I've been doing work in Portugal for about a dozen years, but, you know, my language skills are okay to get around. They're not great. I mean, it takes a different level for research, right? So, so I worked a bit, particularly with doing qualitative work with translators. I mean, I'm good enough to, like I said, manage to teach. I can teach a little bit in Portuguese, but not, I couldn't do what I needed to do. I mean, again, it's there's so many subtle things about a culture and language. So yeah, there are a lot of challenges in doing research in another country, comparative work, and there's just challenges. I had to laugh when you were talking about funding. Like, I'm 60 years old and I've been like searching for funding constantly. So it is a challenge, and I'm not sure if it'll get better or worse in your generation, but I do think that finding money for comparative research is challenging, and I do think Fulbright is a great venue for it, quite frankly. So I'm hoping now that time has passed, I want to continue my research in Germany. So I'm hoping I'm writing my application now for the 21-22 cycle. So we'll see.
Good luck. That's amazing.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really hard 5 pages to do teaching and research. Oh, and I'm also a specialist like David is. Although I haven't taken on any assignments, but I'm on the roster. So
Gotcha. Oh,
so-
we have a 2 specialists here. Oh, awesome.
and I'm active in the Fulbright chapter here in Pittsburgh that sort of, the local universities have sort of started. So we're about a year old. So it's been a lot of fun. Anyway, last thing is special moments or I had a lot of fun picking olives. I went on a farm with, I have friends in Portugal, and they have a farm with about 100 olive trees, and we spent that with the weekend with her grandparents picking olives, and that was a really, it's hard in Portugal. It's very family oriented. And I was there alone. It was hard at times to be without family, and it was wonderful to be included as part of someone's family for a short time. So.
Mhm. That remind me of the time when I was picking strawberry.
It's hard work.
I was like in someone
Hard
else's farm, and like I have no idea why I'm here and just picking a strawberry. But it was fun. It was you get to eat at the end. So
No, not the olives. No, you don't want to eat those.
yeah, that's true. All right, so I heard some of the like things that
I
has
actually
been
haven't introduced myself. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I've been muting myself and off my video because I was just feeding my son earlier. So, hi everyone. My name is Azalia, and I'm a PhD candidate in media study at UB. I'm a Fulbright scholar from Indonesia, and in 2011 I was also an LTA at the School of Advanced International Studies, Johns Hopkins University in Indonesia. In Washington D.C. from Indonesia. And right now I'm writing my dissertation and waiting for this pandemic to over to actually go back to Indonesia and film my dissertation project on activist media in relation to vulnerable populations in relation to HIV people in prison settings. I guess the most memorable moment for me is to actually being 7 months pregnant and have to still take full-time classes and shoot my film and just like running around like a crazy woman. But I did that, so I think everything was possible after that point.
Applause to you. I couldn't do that.
All right, thank you so much. And feel free to turn off the video if you have to, and then mute yourself. It's no pressure. Trust me. I was talking with the Joey before these this thing starts. This is something that I noticed is in Japan, usually when you do online workshop, no one's turning on the video. You just turn it on the mic. And I'm very confused. I was yesterday I was in the seminar and no one was turning on their video, and I was like, who am I talking to? I feel like I'm talking to AI, it's like, hello there. So yeah, as I said, feel free to mute yourself, turn off your video. And then if you weren't here at the beginning, I already covered that this workshop will be recorded. So yes, that's covered. So I heard something common from some people. So I heard two things that has been like kind of, caught my attention, which was research and culture. So there's a lot of cultural differences where we are right now because everybody's in different places. Like I heard I don't know, like people went to Malaysia, Netherlands. We have where do we have? We have a lot of places. I just wrote it. I just cannot understand my own handwriting. All right, that happened a lot. So what are some of the things that you have done during your research process that it can kind of come over to your cultural things and the research that collecting for the data? So I remember China case you said, right? Molly, China?
Yes.
Yes. So you were mentioning about like, it's unable to kind of collect the data is because of cultural differences, and you have to wait until someone to come to you and then tell you what was the problem, or maybe what was something that why like the reason you could not collect your data. So before someone come to you and talking to you, and was it McDonald's? Was it correct?
Yeah, it was the weirdest place, but yeah.
Yeah, McDonald's is a happy place for everybody. So, so what did you try before to come over this kind of challenges, like for collecting?
I will say that because like like researching in another country was still like of course new to me as an undergrad. Like I went to the professors, I asked them like how do I conduct this research? And they literally just told me just go out there and talk to people. I'm just like that's not helpful at all. And I talked to some of the students that were there and some of the Chinese teachers that actually they like one of them studied abroad in Spain, so I got to talk about her experiences, like encountering mental health over there for the first time, like not really understanding like why it was such a big thing. But yeah, like I really don't have like a formal explanation because I wasn't given one.
Yeah, that happened a lot, especially in Asia. It's like you're on your own kind of. So like when we talk about like research, like it's very interesting to me because it's like some of us actually studying in like East, and some is like West, and like you're in a European country, you're in Asia, so the approach has to be different. And I'm just curious how other Fulbrighter has been like overcome this kind of challenges, because we all have this kind of challenges. We will always have these challenges, like if we decided to continue our research in the field that we decided to. So is there anybody that has like specific like kind of skills to come over this kind of like challenges, or is there like maybe experiences or like advices that you can give to people that maybe you can try this and it might work?
I just got back from South Africa, and there, as every place I've ever been, one of the first principles is find somebody there that's going to be your partner, at least something like an advisor or a mentor. And they will prevent you from wasting too much time. They will help you to avoid sticking your foot in your mouth too deeply. And always, always have people explain themselves to you. Don't make too many assumptions. And when they're tired telling you about their lives, they're going to want to hear about American universities. They're all hungry for that information. And your personal experience as graduate students or faculty will be an incredible opening exchange. And you have a chance then to approach them on a second meeting, perhaps with something that's semi-organized. But I say find a mentor and listen to the people explain themselves.
So
I'm sorry, it cut out a little bit there. After you mentioned that, like they were interested in U.S. universities. So could you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the two things I wanted to say, find somebody that is going to be a mentor to you, somebody that's a scholar, somebody that is a community activist, somebody that is already in it, and work with that person to make acquaintances and listen a lot. And after you've listened to them, they're going to want to listen to you. But I think that to get that order backwards is a big mistake. You should hear them before they hear you. Now, I'm just going to throw something out here.
Okay.
I have a website, and I think, Zoe, you've got it. It's a tiny website for me and my wife. It's math-ed.com. And even though I'm a math geek, there are some papers that I've done there recently with other people, in particular a sociologist. Read the paper called Fatal Encounters. We looked at over 500 newspaper articles about the fatal shooting of people of color in the United States by police officers and security guards. And we asked a bunch of researchy type questions. This doesn't sound like something a math person would do, but there is a qualitative methodology in there, a technology that you might find really, really interesting. We use it to analyze newspaper articles. You can also use it to analyze scholarly work, use it to analyze interviews, all kinds of possibilities. And it's a very robust type of tool. So math-ed.com, take a look. If you have any questions, just email me.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So, yes. Cool. Thank you. So we have some kind of the comments around us. So while we're talking about funding, and we have two specialists here that who's could actually give us some kind of advice. But before we do that, I kind of wanted to see how other people has been trying to find the funding. What are some of the way that you guys has been what was the website that you've been apply? Maybe something they what is the approach that you did to finding funding after Fulbright? Because Fulbright is taking care of you from beginning to the end of your research, but does not necessarily mean that they will taking care of you whole entire research. So it's kind of taking you to the kind of starting line, I guess. It opened the door for you, but after you open the door, you have to find your own way to kind of continue your research. So I want to hear what are some of the things that you did to find funding. Well, I can start first if no one's so I as I said, I started my literature here, and then I did my research fellowship, and then after that I came back here, same colleges, to do my graduate program. So I came here with the 6 months worth of nothing. I didn't have I came here with the only 6 months worth surviving money. That's what my professor told me, you just need 3 months, which I did double the number. But it was really hard for me to find anything that it's kind of match my timelining, because the fact is everybody have different time. So for example, Japan is only 10 months, Korea could be 10 months, 11 months. So everybody have the ending time is different, the same as the start time is a difference. That kind of make hard to find any kind of funding. So for example, as Japan, your most of funding comes out in March. And when first time I was trying to find the funding, I was on the Fulbright, so I could not apply same, other funding that has been. So that's kind of difficulty that I had to come over. And the next round came in November, which was after I got accepted to college, which it did not work really, the timeline. So I had to go out to different resources, such as instead of looking for the education funding, I was looking for business funding. So there's a company that corporations in Japan that it's interested to helping poor scholar, I guess, for students to raise them and then promote their product while we were studying. And luckily, I was able to secure one of the funding that is like from Japanese green tea company, which is interesting because you will not, think that you will get money from the drinking company and then you will study literature, which is interesting. I mean, but this is one of my approaches. So, what was the other people's like experience like? So what? So what are some of the things that you've done to find the funding, and what are some of the difficulty, and maybe how did you come over those difficulties? I saw some people nodding their heads, so please talk. Molly?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if I had like more data than I collected, my plan was to continue to study there, but the funds that I had planned to use were actually, and this might be helpful for Cheyenne, like the American Psychological Association, just like different associations within what you're researching, have scholarships for students. And then I'm also studying, like, I just graduated marriage and family therapy, so I'm part of California Marriage and Family Association. So I literally find scholarships on there for research. So again, it's like what Yuki was even saying, like what you were saying, the like different places you wouldn't even think of to look for those things.
So would you recommend it to, okay, so this is another question that we kind of came up like with the collecting email question, whatever. Is that for for those new Fulbrighter that comes in, like those the Fulbright that who has been just finished, like what would be one of the advice that you will give it to or continue their research, like because it's like some of them, like I don't know about you guys, but when I finished my research here, I was a little confused of like my status because I came here as a Fulbright fellows and like I have these choices of should I continue the grad school or should I just leave behind everything and just start everything new again. So and then the funding has been one of the critical questions that came to me. So like I would love to continue my research, but at the same time, is like if I don't have enough like financial help, I cannot continue. So what would be something? Okay, first of all, have you ever experienced, like for everybody, have you ever experienced this kind of situations when you finish your Fulbright?
I definitely did. And I also just came back. So I was only there for 7 months. And I had, before this whole thing happened, I had an extension. So I was hoping to be there until September. So it was like cut very short. And I think my number one advice, and I was even thinking about this before the Fulbright ended, was that I would start like the ethics process and like all of like the legwork beforehand. And I think that was something that no one really told me. And I applied like right out of undergraduate. So I had research experience. I knew the process, but I didn't know quite like, oh, I could have done all these things while I was still in America, so that when I got there, I really only had to do data collection. And I wish that there was more talk about like the research specific part. Because I think that's general across all the scholars.
Yeah, Cheyenne, I agree with you totally. I mean, I did a lot of work before I went to Portugal. As soon as I found out, I started doing all the translating of documents, all of the ethics, all of the IRB work, and trying to work remotely with people so that when I got there, I could collect data as soon as possible because I was there basically for the fall semester. Their semester starts later than in the United States, so I couldn't even stay a full semester. I had to get back to Pitt to, teach. So, yes, absolutely. I think that there should be more guidance to younger scholars around what you're going to need to. I mean, what you're going to need to hit the ground running, regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. Because, quite frankly, it took, even with all that ahead of time work, it still took a long time for the Portuguese group to sort of get moving on the data collection. Just a different time. It's just a different sense of time, right? So had I not had everything ahead of time, I would have left without any data. So that's a really good point. And I think one that wasn't stressed, I think for our Portuguese scholars who came to work there, particularly one that was looking at race issues, and which are quite difficult in Portugal, actually. And I don't know that she had done enough of that IRB work and upfront work to be able to do it, to be honest.
That's really great advice. Oh, go ahead.
The truth is, when it comes to funding, I'm pretty sure you already sense this. You already know that it's the work of a lifetime to master scholarly writing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the work of a lifetime to really understand and become proficient at grant writing and grant management.
Yep.
There is no fast track. You have to serve an apprenticeship, basically.
Oh no.
No, there's no fast track. It is a life of rejection. Sorry, ladies.
I got way too many rejection in my life.
Maybe I should probably leave, but no, I agree with David. I get far more rejections on grants and papers. It is a lifelong process that you're on. I mean, you just have to keep doing it, and a lot of it is luck, right place, right time.
And I think a lot of it is, who are you working with?
Yeah.
You're always likely to have, in addition to a great idea, some sort of a great partnership that will bring, differentiated kinds of experience and expertise to it. It makes it more likely. So those of you that have managed to get any kind of funding as Fulbright fellows or scholars or ETAs or anything, wow, I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
I am just dazzled. And my experience came much later in life, so hang in there.
Yeah.
At least
I was gonna say the same thing. It's really about who you know and how prepared you are before applying to the grant. And I know with archaeology and probably a lot of other disciplines too, there's so much paperwork you have to get through before you're even allowed to touch dirt. And so you have to get like permission from the government. You have to have people in the country working with you because they don't allow just foreigners to go do archaeology in their country. So you have to have this whole team of people already set up before you even land in the country. And I think that being part of like an already established project and then maybe doing like a subsect of that idea is a really good idea to apply to grants with, because then it's not just you alone trying to do something. You have the support from this whole network of people who are also doing something in that realm.
Totally.
Before we continue, Joey, is it like, do we have a time limit in this?
I was just looking that up as we were, because I was like, it seems like we're on a roll. I don't think this will cut us off right at 8. So if anyone needs to go right at, 8 my local time, but if people need to go right at the hour, they can, but I don't think it'll cut us off. I don't think so.
Okay, because like there's two more thing I wanted to talk about before like we kind of wrap it up for today's like I'm sorry, like I think it just took longer than I was expected. But so many people talk about publications. So like what are some of like, things that you've been done for your research, or like what is some of a way that like we can find the better, like the good publications, like places to publish our thesis or research? Like can like someone briefly like share the experience? Yes, Alyssa.
With the same topic, if you're oh, hello, you hear me?
Okay, yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as the last topic too. If you're part of a big research project, I think it's really good to start off as being like second author, third author, fourth author on a paper, and then get on as many of those as you can before you can like lead your own research project. And then when you are leading your own research project, you take on someone lower than you and let them be a second, third, fourth author. And I think that chain of succession for collaborative research is the best way to go about it. And I think that's the way you can find most success in it too, is collaboration with other people. And that's my opinion. That's how it works in archaeology, especially in Cambodia. Every archaeologist in Cambodia publishes each other's work with their names on everyone's papers. So that's how we kind of do it. And I think that's a really cool way of just like sharing your research and getting like a community off of that too.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you. Second and third author. Oh, this is kind of new because it's like, this is interesting. Like, I guess it's like archaeologist fields are little, have a like every field have a different way of like publicate the paper, but that's cool. This is a good idea. Someone was speaking and I.
Oh, that's okay. It was me. I was just going to say that something that was really useful for me for my Fulbright experience was that the data collection for interviewing people and like the main project I proposed was very slow. But one of the things is that my mentor was very open about if it's hard to find funding, then let's do things that you can either do online or like very low cost. So I spent a lot of my time there actually starting to do like narrative reviews and like literature reviews, which obviously are less impactful as publications, but might be cited more than original research anyway, and are still like made me feel like my time was useful, even if I was having trouble recruiting participants. And so I think also doing something like that or doing papers or publications that maybe weren't the first thing you thought of, but are very low cost.
That's important. Experience comes together. Awesome. So is there anybody else who can kind of like share their like publication experience, or is there like, some website that you're aware of, or like is there like some kind of like things that you've done for your research before we move to, because I'm a little worried about time, so I'm just like moving a little faster. Sorry.
My battery's going to puke on my iPad here any minute. So I'm going to wish you well and look forward to the next. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We look forward to that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. So one of a question that personally I had after I seen you guys a response on the like Google is like everybody's talking about collaboration, and I want to know what is collaboration actually mean to you. Like, first of all, like what are some of the like when you hear the collaboration, what are you thinking? What is the images of a collaboration to you? Because we need to clarify what is collaboration for each other, and then from there maybe we can, kind of like find a way to help each other with the research. So, bye. Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, she left.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So this is Patrice Moulton. And I've been listening because my internet connection is so bad. So is there too bad of a lag?
No, we can hear you
No,
great.
it's okay. You sounds great.
So I've just been kind of quietly lurking and listening because of the internet. So I've done research both internationally. I'm a professor in Louisiana and a Fulbright specialist. And I just wanted to speak real quickly to a couple of the things that have come up.
Okay.
I would say, like, number one, I would say a lot of the research doesn't have to be overly expensive, as someone else mentioned. I'm very involved in research, but it's not all of my research has really, like, particularly qualitative research, I find to be, other than traveling where you want to go to do the research, there's really very little cost involved in qualitative research. So unless you're just determined to do like an international study involving people with instruments that cost a lot of money and instrumentation, there's just so much research that can be done to build a resume that really doesn't cost anything. So I'd really encourage you to kind of, as you're starting and such, to look at some of those qualitative methods or some of those other methods that don't take that much. I'd also just like to say that, like, when I think of collaborative, I write with my graduate students. There are constantly, I write books, articles, I write And so I offer graduate students opportunities to write chapters or voices in books. And I think when you let it be known that you're willing to do that and you've done some writing, there will be people that will want to, have you be a part of that. So for me, collaboration means like at all levels. It means helping younger professionals get started and have opportunities. I know one of you mentioned doing like second and third authorship first before you move up. And so that's the model I started with, but I actually work with a faculty research team, collaborative interdisciplinary research team. And we have all of our brand new faculty, our youngest members go on as first authors because the rest of us have been doing it so long.
Oh, wow.
We need it for any more. I'm at a point in my career. First authorship is nice. That's always lovely, but I don't need it for my career. Why would I not tell a young person who's getting started and struggling to get things? Because it doesn't matter if I'm first or if I'm sick at this. So I think it's finding a group of people. Now, I can also say on my team that if I do need something, like maybe I need to renew my full graduate faculty status, and so I have to fill out an application. I had first authorship in the last 3 years. All I have to do is say that on my research team, and whatever it is we're writing together, the next thing that happens, they put me on as first author because we all do equal work.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
That's so cool.
Nice.
From
Yes, like
collaboration, finding a group of people, each other's journey, and kind of there to kind of move through the process, do equal work and each other through as needed. And it's not really about arguing over first, second, and third.
gotcha. Joey, this kind of made me realize that this is a perfect chance for you to explain the Fulbright forum website where
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because this is like, where they can actually like, trying to find other like second, third, fourth author or like maybe collaborate.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. Yeah, I just want to say this is awesome to hear everyone's ideas about collaboration and also about publication, because it turns out those are more related than I thought. And I think too, what's exciting about this is that I think that sometimes other fields may be able to learn from slightly more collaboratively oriented fields. I'm not so sure how collaborative my field always is, and I'm still learning about that since I'm a new PhD student, but this is really exciting for me to think about, how can you bring these cultures of collaboration into your own discipline as well. In terms of what Yuki's talking about, I was going to mention this since we're coming to the end of the meeting. Do you want me to talk about a little bit about the opportunities?
Oh, yes, okay. Opportunity, and then there's the website.
And the research space, yeah. So I'll share my screen with you in a minute, but essentially what Yuki's talking about is that we're trying to find ways that we can kind of continue this conversation even after these workshops or in other venues. And I think that a lot of what you all have shared, I think would be really great resources to more people even beyond this meeting. And so to that end, I wanted to let you all know about some of the things we're thinking about doing after this workshop in case any of you are interested. And also anything that's on the slide will have better, more robust version in the email. So you can have links and everything. So no need to write it down. But we're going to make a Fulbridge research space on the Fulbright Network website. I think that's a bit confusing, but essentially we'll have things like a forum. It will have a place where we can store all our past workshop videos and posters and everything. So, and they can have a place where people can discuss and kind of find like fellow collaborators, et cetera. So I think a lot of what we've all been talking about as you're all writing, I was noting a lot of ideas about great resources we could create. And I think potentially we could all, people can collaborate and make this fairly organically within this space and share it with the wider Fulbright community. So when we've created that space, I'll invite you all to it and you can join if you're interested. And then Yuki, I didn't know if you want me to talk about these other things too right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just briefly, if you are all interested in kind of taking some of these research topics we've discussed into a more discipline-specific space, you can also apply to lead or create your own group within the Fulbright Network website. So that's something to be thinking about. You can also explore the existing disciplinary groups. So for example, there's like a humanities group. And so if that became something you wanted to participate in more strongly, or you wanted to take the lead on that, we're always looking for that. And so that's another interesting opportunity. I also, way back when we were talking about kind of like how do you navigate different cultural approaches to research, et cetera, and like researching in a foreign country in general. There's upcoming workshops that Fulbridge will be leading, and one of those is Kate Spanos, who did her Fulbright in Brazil on anthropology. She's leading a series of workshops about ethnography. And so even for those of you who aren't necessarily anthropologists, you may find that interesting to participate in as well. That's on May 19th. And also, I'd encourage any of you who are interested in leading your own workshops like this, if you wanted to make it more specific about any of the topics we discussed or something entirely different, you can get in touch with me, and there'll be a really easy process for setting that up too. And then lastly, I'll just say, like Yuki here, Yuki is a volunteer at Fulbridge. And so if that also becomes something you're interested in, there's lots of exciting ways you can stay involved that way as well. So I know that's a lot of information, but I just wanted you all to know that this exciting kind of thing we have going here that I've really enjoyed can continue. So we're really happy that you all joined. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it seems like the Fulbridge is like, when I was checking the website, there's always like, there's like a country representative positions, and I heard a lot of like countries that I haven't seen on the website today. So it'll be great opportunity for both of us that having some volunteer, maybe represent your country, because it's like you study there, so you have more knowledge than anybody else. So it'll be great that you can, if you have time, if you have that moment in your life, then maybe you want to kind of help other people. And I actually, the purpose of today's workshop was, as Joey said at the beginning, it's very, like, we have a very different discipline. So the purpose was to, first of all, to kind of gather together and talk to each other. And, like everybody seems like everywhere, but we all have the same issue, same problem that we approach sometime in our lifetime. So it's it's normal to go through. And the second thing it was actually personally for myself is I'm very confused when someone said Fulbright alumni, because alumni has that images of like very successful people. and I am the alumni, and we all alumni, and I'm always having this hard problem of like putting myself in the group, because like I am because I just finished my Fulbright and I'm very fresh alumni, so like I'm the bottom pull of the bottom of the alumni list, but I'm still alumni. So the purpose of this workshop was also to kind of like gather as a people who recently finished the Fulbright, and then and kind of like people who are in the those the stage where like we're transitioning from like actual Fulbright to whatever the career. Oh, hi, we have a kid. Sorry, the transitional more like smoothly. So I heard a lot of things today, which makes me very exciting and interesting, because like I knew the cultural thing was one of the biggest challenges that we might gonna face when we do the research, and then like funding. But we also have this website, and I did not think about the publication as a second, third author, or the volunteer to work with the mentors to write. I think that was a great idea. I really I wasn't thinking about this, so thank you so much for this idea. Well, since it's like 10:10, I think I'm just gonna wrap it up from here. But before I wrap up, I wanted to ask if there is anyone to say anything at this time. Like anything's fine. Like, and we didn't cover like research methodologies or things like that, because the fact is we are very different disciplines, so we have a different way to research. So we just cannot go over those. But that's what the Fulbridge page is for. So you can kind of like create your own workshop. So for example, like if you want to talk about humanity, that specific challenges bases that you have in Asia, for example, then humanity in Asia, and then we can all talk about those kind of like culture differences, or like Europe, or like South Africa, or like the South America, or wherever that you are. But yeah, is there anybody that wanted to say anything at the end? Like,
I was just going to say thank you again for everybody for organizing this. This was great. I really learned a lot, and I'm glad I got to know all you guys a little bit better.
Yeah,
Zoe,
great to
if
meet
we
you.
are interested in any of those positions, can we just email you? What's a good email for
Yes.
you?
Contact@fulbridge.org. So yeah, if you're interested in volunteering, shoot me an email. That'd be great.
Contact at
And then
Fulbright.
if the emails like this too, if you forget the email, I'm always on the Facebook. So
Okay.
Yeah,
you
it's
can
also on Fulbridge.org's website too. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So message
Sorry,
us
was
on
it
the
contact and at Fulbright.org?
I just realized I could just put this in the chat for everyone and use the technology that we have.
Yeah.
So here we go. Here it is.
Oh,
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure
thank you
thing.
so
Yeah,
much
this
for
has been
everybody
awesome.
who
Thank you
shared.
so much.
Thanks, guys. I just want to say, like, if there's any chance that, like, we could share contact information with each other, because again, like, I've learned a lot from everyone here. I got
Yes, yes,
David's
yes.
website number or website name, but that's it.
Yeah, why don't, if anyone wants to put their contact information, they could either put it in the chat, or if people who want their contact information shared could email me. That's another option. Since I'm new to this platform, I'm not sure what will happen to this chat after we shut it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I
but
just
if
share
people
mine
wanna-
on there.
Yeah, if people want to write
Yay.
that down, I can take note of these too. And so they're available.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for who's participating in this. Like, I know I don't know what time zone you guys are. I'm at actually 10 a.m. here. So if I'm living in the future, everything is fine. So you don't worry about it for tonight. I didn't see any news, so
Yep. So far, so good.
yes,
From over there.
All right. Do you have anything else to say, Joey, at the end?
No, I don't. I just thank you all for coming and offering such awesome advice and being so interested in continuing the conversation, because this has been wonderful for me too. And I'm just so lucky to talk to you all. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day or night.
Have a good night.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon.